Alright, so this is going to be a quick informative video on the PS90 ring sights and sighting options in general. When I originally put the short barrel on this SBR, I did it with the slant brake flash hider compensator deal, but since I've got a suppressor on the way pretty soon, I took that off and I put on the 1/2x28 thread adapter that Tross included with the lathe work that he did when he chopped my barrel. So in doing that, I figured it might be a good time to reaffirm the zero, because by changing what effectively holds the barrel in place, you can kind of imagine this as a barrel nut. I assumed that it would also shift the zero. So on my PS90, I have the black ring sight. You can distinguish between the black and the white ring sights by the bodies. The black ring sights have aluminum bodies with these squared off edges, whereas the more common white ring sights are plastic and they have sloped edges at the front and back. So if you're looking at one and you're wanting to distinguish between which it is, that's how you can tell. This PS90 actually came to me as a standard model, which is the most common, or actually I believe it's the only model sold today. The standard model has a really high sitting rail that mounts onto the receiver right here, and it has a little peep sight at the rear of the rail where you can see through with a standard AR-15 post at the front, which you can use to aim through the rail. Very rudimentary aiming solution, kind of just a holdover for until you get an optic. But the good thing about these standard models is that it has the exact same receiver as the older models, or just like a actual standard P90. So you can take the standard rail right off and drop one of the ring sights right in. But the ring sights, however, are a bit tricky to zero because they are externally adjusted with this screw right here and another identical one that's located inside of here. And with your P90 should have been included one of these tools, which is not horribly necessary. It makes it easy to get down in here and turn the exterior part of that screw. If you don't have one of these, you can pretty easily just do it with like the tip of a knife or something, but it's not going to be a very optimal thing. You'll save yourself a headache if you have one of these handy, which should have been included anyways. And also should have been included is one of these Allen wrenches. I have no idea what size this is. It's just the one that was, actually, if I look, I might be able to tell you. I don't know, just bring out your set of Allen wrenches and see which ones fit. Also might be helpful is a pair of pliers, and you'll see why later. Okay, so that the way the external adjustments work is this inner screw right here holds the outer screw in place. The inner screw does not affect the zero at all. All it does is keep the outer screw from turning. The outer screw is what actually externally adjusts the angle of the optic. And I believe I've got this one pretty loose already. Let me see. Yeah. So by loosening this, it allows me to adjust this. If I get close here, you can actually see what happens if I hold it. So I'm going to tighten the screw, and you should see the ring sight. Yeah, see, by tightening the screw, the ring sight comes out further. By loosening the screw, it can go closer down to the receiver. So tightening it, I'm raising the rear of the ring sight. So I'm going to tighten my set screw here for my elevation and shoot a 5-round group and see where it lands. You gotta be careful shooting in unconventional positions like that with the PS90 because it can eject brass on you somewhere and it comes out pretty hot. Alright, so I'm at about 30 yards and there's my 5-shot group. It's not the tightest group in the world, but you guys saw the position I was shooting from, and I'm getting wet out here, so I'm just kind of trying to get this over with. But I would say that's about, on average, 3 inches high. So we'll see how we have to adjust. Sight is low, therefore my shots are high. I'm wanting to bring this interception out here, so what I need to do is that I need to take the line of sight from the optical line of sight, and raise it, which means tilting the ring sight itself backwards. So regardless of where you choose to zero, any distance you shoot closer than your zero distance, your bullet is going to be hitting lower, and any distance you shoot further than your zero distance, your bullet's going to be hitting higher, with the exception of getting out to that second intercept point where, you know, it flip-flops again. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and loosen the set screw and then give it some slack. Now I'll take my adjustment tool, and remember, tightening it would raise the back end of the sight as demonstrated earlier. So what I'm going to do is loosen it so that the back end of the sight can come down closer to the receiver, so basically effectively tilting the sight backwards. And another thing to remember is that if you're watching this video, then you may have already played with these little adjustment things already, and they have extremely coarse thread, like thick thread. So little adjustments that you make a big difference. So I'm going to take this and put it right about there, I think. And we'll see what that does with my zero. Alright, so there's my second 5-shot group. As you can see, loosening the screw brought my zero out a little bit further. I'm pretty much where I want to be at elevation now. My windage is still a little bit to the right, and I'll see if I can deal with that now. Okay, so for this diagram, try and imagine this as an aerial view of the P90. This being the P90, of course, this is the path of the bullet, which actually should be parallel with the P90, but it's whatever. And this is your line of sight from the optic. So as you saw, my bullets are landing to the right of where I want them to, so I need to take the point of aim and adjust it towards the right. Okay, so up here is basically the same deal. Here's your windage adjustment. By tightening the outer screw, you're pushing the sight closer towards you because you're pushing away from this side of the receiver. So by tightening this, you're pushing the sight itself away from the receiver. So this is where the pliers might come in handy because you can't get the long end in there. So if it's tight in there, this is probably too tight for hand. Yeah, I'm gonna have to use the pliers to break the torque. Okay, so I went ahead and loosened the set screw with the pliers in tandem with the Allen wrench, of course. And as I demonstrated, I need to angle the ring sight further to the right. So in order to bring it further to the right, I need to tighten the outer screw here, which will push it away from the receiver and bring it closer to me. So change the angle here. And I'm just gonna tighten this a little bit. It was right about here. I'm just gonna take it right there and see what that does for my shots. I'm gonna go ahead and retighten the set screw. And we'll see what happens. Okay, so as you can see, that moved my shots slightly to the left. So by angling, if you imagine my hand as the optic, by angling the optic to the right, it caused me to aim the gun more to the left. So by angling the optic to the right, it moved my shot group to the left. So all I'm gonna do now is tighten up on these set screws. I go pretty tight on them. That's how I had it on my before I put this muzzle device on, and without any Vibratight or Loctite, they were still like torqued very well when I went to unscrew them to do this video and to make the adjustments. So I don't, ooh, does it take? Yeah. So as for my opinion on the dot sight or the ring sight itself, unless you just like the aesthetics of it, I would say go with something different. They're not very good in any real aspect. They're cool because they're P90-ish. They look like they belong on there. And one thing that I really hate about the standard model PS90s is that the rails are so high, and then they just look goofy to me. But another option is that you can have a, there's aftermarket options that have a optic specific mount that goes inside the receiver here, and you can put like an aim point on there or an ACOG. You know, do your research and you can figure it out. That's what I would suggest if you want like a serious use PS90. Like if you want to keep a PS90 for home defense or whatever, I wouldn't recommend going with the ring sight because there's so much better options out there. But I still like having it on here because it's cool. It's just a real pain to zero because you always have to think, okay, if I screw it this way, it'll adjust the sight this way, which will move my shot group this way. But that's why I made this video, try and help some people. Hopefully it did. Thanks for watching.